Recently, I made a fantastic decision and sold my 2007 BMW M5, a 500 horsepower super sedan for the whopping price of $10,500. That's pretty good money considering that BMW at any moment could turn the morning school run or coffee run into a complete disaster, financially ruining your life because it was so unreliable and expensive to fix. With that money burning a hole in my pocket, I realized I needed a super fast sedan in my life again, but I vowed to buy something that was less terrifying to own, like a CTS-V or a Mercedes AMG. But then I came across this irresistibly cheap Maserati Quattroporte and decided, well, why not again? I mean, it wasn't that bad. Now hold on, before you tear me apart in the comment section saying how dumb I was for buying this like you always do, I really think this one isn't that bad. I found it at a dealer auction in Florida, bid on it sight unseen from across the country, and according to this wholesale website that calculates values based on their sales, they have a lot of sales data going through. It's a national auction with hundreds of locations. They thought the average auction value of a 2007 Maserati Quattroporte like this was $5,500. This beautiful Bordeaux red Pininfarina styled body with a Ferrari V8 engine is worth $5,500 according to this website. And they're actually kind of right, because most 2007 Maserati Quattroportes at auction have more needs repair-wise than the entire car is worth. And keep in mind, these aren't very valuable when they're nice. Low mileage ones you can find for around $20,000, which is an incredible value. I paid $8,800 for mine and $1,000 to ship it from Florida to Kansas. Bought it sight unseen, and that's $3,000 more than the estimated wholesale value of this vehicle with 80,000 miles on it. So you would think that I overpaid, but 2007 brought on a major change to the Maserati Quattroporte that made all the difference between them being terrible and kind of awesome. Here, let me show you. When this fourth generation Maserati Quattroporte unveiled to the public in 2003, everybody wanted to buy one. On paper, it sounded fantastic. This beautiful interior, this beautiful body, the engine of a Ferrari. On paper, it sounds amazing until you actually drive it. Now, with Italian cars, you got to expect weird ergonomics, stupid ergonomics, and this Quattroporte is no exception. One of the weirdest things I never noticed about the Quattroporte before was the CD changer underneath the steering column right here. Weird spot. You're reaching in between your legs to change CDs, but okay. The cruise control's in a place that makes no sense, nor are the buttons to turn off the traction control. They're on the radio. The radio buttons are down low where you'd think it would be something else. It's laid out terribly, but it is a very beautiful interior. But still, we could look past these issues because this car is so beautiful, and it should be amazing to drive with that Ferrari V8. But they decided not only to go with a Ferrari V8 at first, but also a Ferrari-derived transmission. The original transmission to come in the Quattroporte was the Duo Select transmission. It was an automated manual gearbox, a single clutch like my old M5. It's really slow to shift and super clunky and jerky, which is what you don't want in a luxury car. And even worse, the clutch would wear out every 10 or 20,000 miles. It'd wear out a lot quicker if you lived in LA and you had a lot of stop and go traffic, which I imagine a lot of people in LA would want a Maserati, so why would you want a car that costs $4,000 every 10 or 15,000 miles to replace a clutch because a computer can't work a clutch properly? It was just dumb, stupid. Thankfully, my 2007 was one of the first Quattroportes to come with the normal automatic gearbox, a ZF transmission that comes from Germany, Mercedes. Countless other makes have this rock-solid, albeit not very advanced, 6-speed automatic gearbox that's much smoother and just way better. In 2007, it was kind of a mixed bag. A good chunk of them still had that old gearbox that nobody liked, and some came with this new gearbox. That's why the wholesale value on the 2007s in my car is so low, because most of them have that old Duo Select gearbox. In 2008, the values are much higher because every single 2008 Maserati Quattroporte had this better ZF gearbox. So I actually got a deal at $8,800 because mine has the updated gearbox, but it still had the low values. $8,800 was the cheapest running and driving Maserati Quattroporte with the good transmission that I could find in the USA. But unfortunately, the one thing that I didn't think was going to be an issue with this car turned out to be the biggest problem. When I bought this car sight unseen from Florida, I knew it was going to have a lot of issues. About every car I bought from Florida has issues because people move to Florida to save money on their taxes and they skimp on the maintenance of their cars, or At least that's the theory that I've heard from somebody. But anyway, even if this car spent its entire life in Beverly Hills, I'd still be a little worried by the Carfax because it had 6 owners. 6 owners. And when I saw the pictures of this car online before I bought it, I knew I was going to have to deal with some issues because the check engine light was on, along with plenty of other things. And I was convinced I was going to have to deal with the biggest issue the Quattroportes have, and that's opening the hood. No, it's, yeah, there we go. And that's with this engine. This Ferrari-inspired engine really wasn't built to be a daily driver car with long oil change intervals. And apparently the cam variators, the camshaft variators, will fail on these. It'll transform this 400 horsepower V8 into a clattering, broken boat anchor. Still, that didn't scare me, even though I was pretty sure it was going to have this problem because it's so common. Because used engines are really cheap on the Quattroporte, and that's because most of them have failed transmissions. They get totaled and they're sitting in the junkyard because of the transmissions, not the engines. So the engines are only about $2,000. So rather than spending $10,000 or so fixing the cam variators, or I would probably save a few grand by doing it with the Wizard, getting a used engine makes a lot more sense. But this engine is fantastic. It starts up, it's quiet, there's no noises. It's amazing. The big issue I have is with something I never expected. Oh yeah, this engine is fine. Oh my God, I can't believe I own one of these for $8,800. It is such a deal, especially with its transmission. But sadly, the transmission is actually the main issue with this car. The engine is fantastic. The transmission is what's showing as a fault on the screen. It's saying that I don't have manual mode, but when I put it in manual mode, I'm able to shift just fine. The only thing that seems a little off is when I first drive it cold, say in the morning, and it shifts a little bit rough. But it seems like it's an electronic issue and not a transmission issue. These transmissions aren't known to fail, and looking them up online, I can buy a used one for like 600 to 800 bucks. That's ridiculously cheap. So I think I'm safe there. There's definitely plenty of warning lights on. My radio doesn't work because I don't have the code, and it has some dead pixels in the screen. But it's a running and driving Maserati Quattroporte, 400 horsepower for only $8,000. It's amazing. Oh, well, that's so good. The other thing I like about this Maserati Quattroporte is it feels so light on its feet for being such a big car. But that doesn't come at the expense of the ride. The ride is still really smooth and good in this thing, but it still feels sporty and fast. It's a great combination of the two. Oh, where have you been all my life? Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's where the mirrors adjust. That is so weird. Okay. I was wondering where it was. Of course, there were a ton of other issues with this Quattroporte when I took delivery of it, mostly electrical, but you know, it's funny. This is the first car I have ever seen where it has a battery cutoff from the factory, a quick disconnect where I can pull one lever and disconnect the battery. And because the battery had gone dead earlier, it sent a lot of the electronics into a frenzy, and just pulling it and resetting it with this factory battery disconnect fixed a lot of my problems. Still, there are plenty of other things that my mechanic, the Car Wizard, is going to have to tackle. A really good laundry list, but more on that later. Still, despite all of the issues, I'm really excited to have an Italian car again, a Pininfarina V8 exotic Italian car. I'm just hoping that this one has a much happier ending than the last one I had. Thank you for watching. Yeah, no fires. No fires, please.